went over their house so many times. And you always think Nick is so proper Native American. And a lot of our Native American men do not show affection in front of other people. It's just something they don't do. But I can guarantee you, I watched Nick put his arm around Charlotte, reach over when they're sitting there and we're just having dinner or we're talking afterwards. He'll reach over and grab her hand and squeeze it. You know, you could see the love between the two of them. It was there. It was so, so beautiful. And that's how I love both of them. And I just, my heart aches just like Charlotte. And I know it's been really hard on her. She has kept so busy that she hasn't had time to really think about things. And it's hard, I'm sure, when she goes home at night. But Nick's here. I felt him come through, right on through the middle, because he used to say the spirits come through the middle, and boy did he come. So he's here. And I love you.
So I guess I just want to say to Charlotte, you know, Nick and Charlotte were Arts and my like best friends. And we went through a lot together. And one of the reasons Art isn't here is because he too probably would be able to quite handle it again. We were with Nick, Art and I, with Nick and Charlotte the last 11 days of his life. And so we had times to recall a lot of things. And, you know, we came together during that time of the fishing treaty rights. And a lot of people from Madison, non-union people, students from the university, organized around having regular meetings, treaty rights meetings, on campus. And at that time, you know, everyone began to learn in Madison what was happening here. Tom and Nick were like, and Charlotte were like, you know, sort of, they were all the warriors. They were all warriors. And the Wisconsin State Journal actually did daily publications for almost a month of what was happening up in northern Wisconsin and what they were, you know, where they took that stand that they did here. And I remember Nick coming down to a treaty rights meeting in Madison at Press House, and a lot of the people that came to the boat landings and other people would come to these meetings, and there'd probably be at least like 40, 50 people at these meetings on a regular basis. And Nick, I can just remember it plain as day, him saying, you know, my wife is a teacher, and you know, what I really want to do is be able to educate. He said, I really want to be a teacher also. And even at the Capitol, when there would be sort of rallies around these treaty rights, some of the things that were said, it came out very clearly that it was all about education. And Nick really made sure that's what his life really became. And I think that as a result of us coming together during that time, the call to peace, of course, kind of emerged, and Nick at that time had made a poster that a lot of us had. He created it to sell for money for treaty rights issues, Mandeep had invited us to India at that time, and we thought maybe we were all going to India, but it didn't turn out. But I just think Nick has made it to India anyway. He's on his way to India. So with that, one last thing I also want to tell everyone that you wouldn't maybe know about. Call for Peace also was at the 100-year Parliament of the World's Religion in Chicago in 1993. And in 1893, Native Americans weren't invited to this. This was during the Columbian Exposition in Chicago. So in the 1993 Parliament of the World's Religions, the Native American people from 4 directions opened up the Parliament of the World's Religions. 7,000 people, 7 days, and from all over the world. Every religion in the world was there. And Nick, at the end, our Call for Peace performed at the end in Grant Park of this Parliament, in front of about 70,000 people. And right after the Dalai Lama spoke. And we've got this on film, where he basically says, you know, we all need to come together, and we need to go back to our faith and our wisdom keepers, and learn from them. And with that, I can't think of anything funny, but I know there's funny things. But anyway, thank you for listening, and I know I talked a little bit too long.
That's easy to do. I just wanted to say a few things. I think I can get through this without crying. But if I do, I have 3 daughters, and I always tell my daughters, it's okay to cry. It's healing. You will feel better after it. So if I cry, there are tears of sadness, yes. There's also tears of joy. And of course, tears of deep respect. So if you see them rolling, that's where it comes from. One of the best things that happened in my life with Nick and Charlotte was when she broke her arm. Let me explain that. Let me explain that. That was just before we were going to Rome, and I became Nick's roommate. So, I mean, I never said that before, Charlotte, but I really did feel for you, but I just wanted to say a couple of words about Nick the artist. Think for a moment, if you were to use one word or 2 or 3 or 4 to describe Nick, just think for a moment to yourself. Nick the blank. Think of that. Nick the blank. One word. Another word. Another. Well, we could go on a long time, couldn't we? Yeah, blank. Well, I just want to talk about Nick the artist for just a short time. I had an Ojibwa woman make me a rosette. Very good beater. Wonderful person. And she involved me in the design. And because I have a Anishinaabe name, Grandfather Bear, it had to be something about a bear. Mishomis Maquaw. And so we designed something, and it came out like it had one big bear claw, really big, and then the other claws were small. I was so proud of it, and I showed it to Nick. I took it to Indian Summer. I said, Nick, look what I have, this beautiful rosette. He said, that's not a right bear paw. That big one, that bears don't have big claws like that. And I said, oh, I looked at it, but I didn't see that. Nick was helping me see, and maybe he helped you see the beauty and the reality. That was his first thing. That's not a bear paw. A claw is so big. And so now I always look at it and I always think of Nick when I look at that. Another short story about Nick the artist. I happened to be with Dawn and Art on the evening that Nick walked on, and I'm a wood carver. So I was carving a particular bird that had lots of beautiful decay in it, and to create some very beautiful wood with the grain and all. It was kind of like that. This isn't it. And I showed Nick, I gave it to him, and he held it in his hand, and he said, I like that. That will make a good carving. And then he gave it back to me. So I took it home and I finished it, and it's like an icon to me. It's like a symbol to me. It's like, Nick touched that. So, it's kind of like putting him up on this pedestal, but I don't care. I did. I did. So, 2 short stories about Nick the artist, and I didn't cry.
I have something I'd like to share.
For today.
Charlotte, she's an awesome lady. You guys all know this. Charlotte's awesome. If mine, it'll take me 1 minute. I'm not going to go on and on. It'll only take me a minute. Charlotte is one of the most awesome people. She's one that her and Nick were the first people that I met when we came here to Lac du Flambeau, and they took me and my boys right in. And she saved my life. I tell people this all the time. I said I spent the first year the day I walked in here, I got sober. And Charlotte and Nick were there, and they said, "We'll help you, no matter what you need." And I'll never forget them for that. And you don't have to spend time with people to love them. And I always will love that, and I love what they did for my boys. And I would call her and say, "Charlotte, my God, they're pinging off the walls. Come help me." And Charlotte would come over. I'm not making this up. These 2 boys would be pinging off the walls. And she would just say, "Oh, boys, come on, let's go lay down now." And she'd sit in there and tell them a story and sing them a song, play them some flute music. And I'd be like, "How do you do that?" So she literally, and then she got to be both of my older boys as kindergarten teacher, which has just, she's Montessori, which is awesome. For Charlotte's birthday, she gives me presents. She gives other people presents. On her 61st birthday, I believe it was, Nick threw her a surprise party out here at the village because she's always doing for others. And that was, he looked at her with such love in his eyes that day. And I was like, oh my God, he cared so deeply for you. And you were so happy. And we had our little dinner out here and our doings. And it was just awesome. And just because Charlotte will never tell people, her birthday is Monday. She was born July 29th. This is Charlotte. If anybody knows Charlotte, she has the 9s. She was born July 29th, 1939 at 9:59 p.m. at the corner of 9th Avenue and 9th Street. I'm not making this up. In Virginia, Minnesota, which has 9 letters. Charlotte has 9 letters, right? Am I right, Char? It goes on and on with her with the 9s. I just want to say I love Char. I love what they've done. I love what they've done for our people. And I can't thank you enough. And you're always in my heart. Miigwech.
Yeah, my name is Clarence. I was born on this reservation, but like many, I was taken away as a little guy. Grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, but I found my way back actually about 11 years ago, and I sobered up 8 years ago. So, just so that you get an idea of who I am, and then I came back here and I started talking to the elders and the spiritual people, and I go to AA, NA, and I really wanted to sober up, but confused about my culture. You know, I've heard so many things, and it was just bombarding me, and I was really confused. Well, I got to talking to a lot of the elders. You know, some of them are gone, and they told me about Nick and what he was doing. And, so I didn't quite understand that either. You know, I was pretty messed up. So, but I had met him a few times, and then one day I said to myself, well, in order for me to understand what he's doing and why he's doing it, so I drove my old motorcycle out here and I introduced myself to him. And I remember that day we sat on the front porch there and we talked, and I told him my dreams and what I would like to do for my people, or, you know, help out, you know, in sobriety. You know, I just, now that I found this good thing, I really wanted to help others, you know, and so that's how I got to know Nick. You know, so later on and my wife Mary and I, you know, I got married here after I sobered up. So my wife and Mary and I, we decided to open our house up for a gathering for sobriety. You know, I wasn't really comfortable with the other things that they have, but you know, so I try to fall back on my culture, and you know, so I started inviting people, and they just came, and from time to time I would ask Nick, you know, am I doing this right? Am I doing that right? And I remember he'd always, oh no, I would say, is this the Indian way? You know, and even he used to tell me, well, you know, if you're native and then you're doing it, then I guess. But Nick really inspired me. He was a man of his own dreams, and that really inspired me to look at life a little different. It was, I think, about a year ago. I was having a sweat at my house, you know, for a bunch of sober people, and he had heard about that, and he had came to us, or he came to me, and he says, you know, I don't want to tell you how to do a sweater, you know, because you've been doing them, but I would like to pass on what I've learned, and that was a really big honor for me and my wife to have that, and it came to our sweat to pass on the stories and to help me with that sweat. I was there when he laid in that bed in his living room. It really meant a lot to me to see him, and I wished him well on his journey. I remember he pulled my hand, but every year I chip wood, a big pile of wood. You know, I chipped it, and so as he's holding my hand, he said, "Can you take out about 2 truckloads out to the village?" You got it, man. That's what I got to do this summer sometime. Anyway, Hope, thank you really much.
Charlotte? May I speak? Thank you. I've known Charlotte and Nick for a long time, 20-some years. My nephew came and told me, you gotta meet this guy. You gotta see this. And they were working on one of the first movies. So it followed through that we came out, we looked up the village, walked up and introduced ourselves and told the story, and then, oh yes, I remember him. And from there, we're still here. In the mid-90s, there was I take that back. Nick always wanted to include the early French history. And we talked the other day, and Galway was a part of that, and presenting his acting abilities in that. And my nephew also told me of this, so he knew of my interest in the early French history, and the fur trade, and the involvement. So it was kind of a natural combination of interests that took place. And Nick and I talked about this, and he was planning a rendezvous, and wanted me to really research this and get a good understanding of it. So I did. And one afternoon during the summer, we came and we were visiting Nick and Charlotte here at the village, and the tours were going on. And Nick looks over to me and he says, hey, there's somebody down in the village that wants to talk to you about that early French history. Oh, great, because I've studied this, it was all fresh in my mind, and I walked down on the trails. And I think I found him down here, close to the arbor where the food was, and we sat and we talked, and I told him as much as I knew. He was very polite. He asked a few questions, and I elaborated. And I went back at the end of this conversation, and Nick, and he was looking at me with this big grin. And it was only then that I found out that who I was talking to was the French consulate from Chicago. That was Nick.
Charlotte, I'd like to say a few words. When Cliff was talking about what we would say about Nick was, to me, he was the peacemaker. He was the bridge builder. And in my culture, the Lakota, he was the embodiment of the four directions. And I know there's a history between the Strawberry Island and all of that, and that's something that Nick was beyond. He brought people together. He didn't separate them. And in his honor, and I know you've been out to green grass as we have so many times to shine with it, I'd like to just sing a song for him if it's okay.
Oh.
I don't have very much to say, but Mr. Molson mentioned about him. I got to thinking when he said, we've got to show him. And that stuck with me because when I read in the paper what showed everybody what it is about when it comes to compassion and learning. He saw, all I can figure is that he saw beyond what most of us see. He saw what life could be like when people did not see color of skin, or they did not see all of the prejudice that can come from so many different ways. He saw that, and somehow he wanted to be able to let us see that too. And he did do it. He did do it because what he did to those young men that had ruined part of his Waswagamy, he had them help rebuild it. And then he made them go in the schools and learn about all, and have to tell the kids in the school all about Waswagamy and about what it was all about. But he just saw further than most of us. That's all I can figure. He could see what the world could be like if all of us could get that stuff out of our head, get that stuff out of our heart, and just maybe just leave a good heart for everyone, and do the best we can, and support people in what they're trying to do if it's positive and good. And that's what I saw with him, and that's what I loved about him. I didn't go to any of these places. I didn't. We had lived here since 1990. I love it here. It's beautiful. It's quiet. It's wonderful. But Nick gave us, all of us, and me in particular, a real lesson in what compassion is, what it's all about. And so I just had to say that.
There's so many things to say about Nick. Where do you start? Where do you end? There's no way. I was lucky enough to meet Nick 26 years ago when I started working at his printing press, and when he had the printing company out in Lac du Flambeau. I moved back to take care of my father's business when he had a heart attack, and I had been a filmmaker and I didn't know what I was going to do here. And so then I met Nick, and he had started the first magazine. I can't think of the name of it. Soaring Eagle magazine, the first Ojibwe magazine and publication. And what you just said about, he is such an educator at heart, but also a visionary. His vision went way back, and his vision went way forward. And his vision was to the heart of everything. And I was so struck by that. And so I had ideas, and I was so lucky that I had someone who said, you can do it. Go do it, and I'll help you. And when the first film we did was Enduring Ways of the Lac du Flambeau, it would never have been done without Nick and Charlotte, who sat in my house till all night, till midnight or 1 a.m. Charlotte with her glasses broken, tied to her head, trying to transcribe interviews of elders, and Nick riding with me in the car at 2 a.m. because the only time we could afford to edit would be in the middle of the night at the TV station in Wausau. I'd drive every day down there to edit and drive back, and he'd carry the tapes and he'd help keep track, and we did it. We got it done, and I wasn't quite sure what the purpose of that film was until it was subpoenaed during the treaty rights to represent the band in the arguments, as this is how people feel about the 4 seasons of their lifestyle. It's not just about counting fish. Right. It's about a way of life. So that was profound. And then I had to move away and get married, which was a wonderful thing. And I moved to Minnesota to the Fond du Lac Reservation. And I missed them, and I missed Lac du Flambeau. And I got a fantastic opportunity with PBS to do the history of the Anishinaabe, which I don't know how you could do that. It's impossible. But in a 6-hour series, I thought, well, it's from pre-contact to today. How do you do that? How do you do that with no images before 1865? And Nick said, we can do it. You could do it. And we came here to Waswagamy, and all 4 seasons 25 below zero and filmed and had to sit with cameras in cars to warm up. And he would have people walking one side of the lake. Now you got to turn around and walk to the other side of the lake while we're filming. And they'd start laughing, and then he'd have them going in circles, and we'd all start laughing. But we got it done. We got it done. And I was so thrilled that he could at least receive an award for the incredible work he's done, because he not only could make it happen, he would create things thinking, how did they do this? That practical sense. How did they do it? How did they do it back then? How did they stay warm in the winter? How did they put the moss for the insulation? He figured it out. If he didn't know, he figured it out. If nobody knew, he knew how. He figured it out. And he got us through that in an amazing way that I don't think anyone could possibly have done it but Nick. So he's been a friend. He's a visionary. He said, you know, he felt like he could sit back there and have soup with the people long ago. And he brought that forward to today. He brought it in a way that made it real, that made us understand there is a continuum. It doesn't end. It keeps going. And I was looking at a Tikanagan he gave to my daughter, a beautiful cradle board. And I said, you know, we got to keep it going like he did. And those kids are going to have to keep that going too. So I'm encouraged. And I'm thrilled because I know he's not gone. All that he did, all that he taught us is just going forward. Thank you.
I'm not too good at this, but I'll try. I've known Nick and Charlotte for about 15 or 20 years. Nick come to my home in Eagle River and demonstrated many, many wonderful things about Native culture. And the first time they were there, after Nick finished the peace pipe ceremony, there was this huge gush of wind. And I thought, wow, what is this all about? And then when they left, there was this enormous gush of wind. I lost my own husband 3 years ago, so what Charlotte's going through. So I found a woman who can channel spirits. And she found my husband, who was a character, many times for me. And I was there in June 3rd. And before I went there, I asked if Nick would please be there. And I never told this woman anything about Nick or anything. And she starts, and all of a sudden she's holding her chest and she's in her stomach, and she said, have you had a friend pass recently? And I said, yes. And she said, well, then it isn't Randy, my husband, who was with me all day. It must be somebody else. And I said, yes. And there was many other parts to this, and I'll make it short, but she shut her eyes, and I asked, what does he look like? And she said, all I see is a rectangle of light. And I was waiting for feathers and bells and regalia. I got a rectangle of light. But in a little while, she closed her eyes and she said, I'm seeing a turtle standing on its hind legs. And I knew he was there. And I asked what I could do for Charlotte, and she gave us some instructions, which you will hear about. And then I said, what can I do for your grandchildren? And he said, if you can find some feathers and give them to them, that would be wonderful. And since that time, I have found 5 eagle feathers. Wow. And this is the first. And each. And I will make you custodian.
He's got too much ego to him. And Nick didn't have that, you know, and so Nick just had a way of just, I don't know how to describe it. He was just an amazing, intelligent man, the best educated man I ever knew, and he was self-educated, you know. And I just gotta tell you this morning, Steve and I, we take a walk every morning with our dog for a couple miles, you know. And we were walking this morning, and I made this joke to my husband, and all of a sudden Nick came right out of the ether. I mean, he was right here, and he was laughing, and it was so good to hear his laugh again, because I haven't heard his laugh in a while, you know, since he was passing and stuff. So, you know, he's there, and he's still got a good sense of humor. I always say God has a good sense of humor because he laughs at my jokes. But it was just good to hear Nick laugh this morning. It really was. It was wonderful.
A little meditation for the future is a big thing we've been pondering here at Waswagani. This summer is missing its master builder and creator. Good meditation, if you all would journey with for a moment here. We're all building our lodge. A lodge, and thus our soul. And if you're like me, you really don't know much about building a lodge. We've gotten rained on a lot. You learn not to keep any metal in your lodge, because if you don't make a good one, you get hit by the lightning, I guess, outside. So you're limited. So, like Clarence was saying, I really like how Clarence was saying he kind of was seeking Nick out. So we seek out master builders. We seek out people, friends, who have experience with building. So we come across our builder, and we'll call him Nick for this one. And Nick has the patience to see you make an ugly lodge. He's got the understanding to know that you need to learn to build the lodge yourself. That he will not be there to keep fixing your lodge for you all the time. So he lets you make your
It looks like we're about done with the story, so I'll tell one last very short story building on the lodge building idea. The first group I ever brought up here in 1987, we actually built 2 lodges in Tom Mawson's front yard, because there wasn't a village at that time, and Nick was going to be doing Indian summer, and he thought, well, you build these lodges and then we'll pop them out of the ground and carry them on a trailer down to Milwaukee to Indian summer. So we had this group that was not only myself, but there was a 71-year-old woman with us, my 12-year-old son, and another 12-year-old young man was there, and there was a woman who looked like Flo from that TV show. She wore high heels and had this big gold hair and stuff. And so we're working in Tom's yard, building these lodges. Nick went away and he came back and he looked at this one lodge, and it was like lopsided, and he just was unmerciful about the fact that we had built this crooked lodge. And he didn't let us forget it the rest of the time we were there. But the frosting on the cake is I went to Indian summer. As I came walking up, Nick was sitting down and he jumped up and ran over to the lodge and did something, and then he stepped away, and I looked, and there was a sign that said, condemned by Milwaukee Department of Health.
song during the steering season, and I didn't want to tell it when Tom Lawson was here because Tom Lawson was his motor man. And Tom Lawson, Nick is up in the front ready to steer, and Tom is back there motoring, and the motor hit a rope, and everything stopped, and Nick went flying over. And it was cold, and he came up, and he looked at Tom. What did you do? He didn't even get the top of his turtleneck wet, even though he went down, under, and came up. It was that fast. One of the stories of Tom Moulson, of many.
All right, well, this is the end. Traditionally, always, for people who've been in the teaching lodge with Nick, he always did a song, the Eagle song, to drum people out at the end of the time. And I was thinking about this, and I decided what we would do is we would sing the warrior song. We would drum out people with the warrior song. I don't know if you've heard Nick sing the warrior song, but one verse is, we see the warrior, and the second verse is, we love the warrior. And what I did was add a third verse to the song. The Ojibwa do not have a word for goodbye. They say Gigawabamin, which means I'll see you later. So I thought the final verse, we do the first two verses, and when we're done with that, and start into Gigawabamin Ogichida, then we're saying, we'll see you later, warrior. And at that point, everybody should stand up, and we're going to file this way so the people here come all the way around, and we'll go out. We are going to have a feast that was scheduled for 5:30. It's not too long from now. I'm not sure whether it's close to being ready and we'll eat earlier or not, but everyone is invited to a feast in Nick's honor.
And I opened up the boxes